April 1944, 25,000 feet above occupied Belgium, 2:47 p.m. Captain Robert Johnson faced 7 German fighters. His fuel gauge read critical, radio dead, wingman 2 miles behind, no help coming. The leader rolled into attack position. Johnson did not turn, did not dive, did not fire. He waited. Everyone said waiting meant dying. Fighter doctrine was clear. Engage immediately, maneuver aggressively, never give enemy first shot. Air Force tacticians said hesitation in combat was fatal. React within 3 seconds or die. They were wrong. Johnson had something the Germans didn't: pattern recognition. 87 missions, 412 hours combat time. He'd watched Luftwaffe tactics evolve since 1943. German pilots had assumptions, standard doctrine, predictable patterns. Johnson had math, timing, discipline. This asymmetry would kill them. Before Johnson's method, American fighters reacted to threats, aggressive maneuvering, high fuel consumption, loss rates climbing weekly. After Johnson's method, American escorts waited for enemy commitment, struck decision-makers first. Formation collapsed. Loss rates dropped 40% in unit using his tactics. Fighter doctrine changed permanently. How did one Oklahoma mechanic's son turn patience into the deadliest weapon over Europe? The answer lived in his notebook: 200 pages of sketches, geometry diagrams, enemy maneuver patterns traced from 87 missions. No instinct, no luck. Just observation converted to prediction. German pilots expected American aggression, standard doctrine since 1942. Every encounter reinforced pattern. Americans turned hard, burned fuel, chased targets. They had no idea Johnson had been counting their decisions for 18 months. What happened in the next 4 minutes would be studied in fighter schools for 60 years. But first, Johnson had to let 7 German fighters believe they'd trapped him. Spring 1944. European Air War entering brutal mathematics. 8th Air Force striking deep into Reich. B-17 formations carving contrails over Germany every morning. Synthetic oil plants, ball-bearing factories, aircraft production centers. Price was staggering. March 1944, 327 heavy bombers lost, 3,270 aircrew KIA or POW. April losses trending worse. P-51 Mustangs gave American fighters range to escort deep penetrations. 1,650 miles with drop tanks, could reach Berlin and return. But distance brought new problems. Fuel management became life or death. Navigation errors became fatal. German tactics evolved faster than American responses. Luftwaffe learned to watch, study escort patterns, let bombers pass. Then strike stragglers, damaged aircraft, anyone who wandered from formation discipline. Efficient, ruthless, effective. 4th Fighter Group operated from RAF in Essex, former Royal Air Force Station, smelled of damp concrete and aviation petrol. Ground crews worked nights patching bullet holes. Intelligence officers tracked loss rates climbing week after week. Pilots wrote letters hoping they'd never be mailed. Statistics were clear. 1 in 4 fighter pilots wouldn't finish tour. 1 in 10 wouldn't return from today's mission. Standard fighter doctrine, aggressive engagement. Made sense. P-51 could outturn 190 in most situations. Outclimb 109 above 20,000 feet. Superior firepower. 6.50 caliber M2 Brownings versus 220 cannons plus 2 machine guns. American doctrine. Spot enemy close to 300 yards, open fire, break, re-engage. Problem: fuel consumption. Hard maneuvering burned fuel at 3x cruise rate. Dogfight lasting 10 minutes could consume 60 gallons. Drop tanks jettisoned on first contact. Internal fuel, 269 gallons. Math was brutal. Fight for 10 minutes over Germany, might not reach England. Fight for 15 minutes, definitely wouldn't reach England. Previous attempts to conserve fuel while maintaining effectiveness. Attempt 1, reduce maneuvering intensity. Result: 17 fighters lost in 1 week. Germans exploited reduced aggressiveness. Attempt 2 assigned specific fuel budgets per engagement. Result: pilots broke off too early. Bombers suffered higher losses. Doctrine abandoned. Attempt 3 rotate fighters from escort to refuel. Result: gaps in coverage. German interceptors hit during gaps. 23 bombers lost August 17, 1943 during raid. German pilots owned predictability. American escorts arrived at expected times, maneuvered aggressively, burned fuel fast. German tactic: extend engagement, force Americans to break off for fuel, then strike bombers. March 1944 report from WWII Fighter Command. Current doctrine unsustainable. Loss rates exceed replacement rates. Recommend immediate tactical review. But no solutions offered. Just problems catalogued. Among 4th Fighter Group pilots was Man Squadron learned not to underestimate. Captain Robert Johnson spoke little at briefings, did not boast in officers' mess, listened, calculated, studied. When other pilots gathered to relive dogfights, Johnson reviewed gun camera footage in silence. Frame by frame, deflection angles, closure rates. Ammunition expenditure. What others called instinct, he called math. What others called luck, he called preparation. His background made him different. Born Lawton, Oklahoma, 1920. Father ran small garage. Johnson grew up with grease under nails, logic of machines in bones. Engines made sense. Carburetors, timing chains, valve clearances all followed rules. If something broke, you found cause. If something failed, you learned why. Flight training revealed something instructors rarely saw. Johnson wasn't smoothest pilot, not fastest learner, but precision was unsettling. He flew by numbers, calculated fuel burns in head, could estimate altitude loss in turn within 50 feet. One instructor noted in file, Johnson flies like engineer pretending to be pilot, not compliment. But accurate. By early 1943, Johnson reached England with unusual reputation. Methodical, cold, precise. He studied after-action reports, interviewed returning pilots about German tactics, sketched engagement geometries in notebook carried everywhere. His first kills came summer 1943. Clean, efficient, no wasted ammunition, maneuvered into position, fired short bursts, confirmed result. Then disengaged, returned to escort duty. By end of year, his tally had grown, so had understanding of enemy. He learned to recognize Luftwaffe unit markings from silhouette alone, memorized performance envelopes of 190 and 109, calculated turning radii, climb rates, fuel limitations. Studied them like chess player studies openings, not to admire, to defeat. But Johnson learned something most pilots never would. Value of appearing vulnerable, looking weak when you weren't, letting enemy believe they held advantage until moment you proved otherwise. Required patience, absolute confidence in calculations. April 1944 mission would test that patience beyond anything he'd faced. Mission brief was routine. Escort B-17s to synthetic oil plant outside Leipzig, provide top cover through penetration, defend against interceptors during bomb run, shepherd wounded back toward channel. Johnson's flight launched dawn, 4 Mustangs, full internal fuel plus underwing drop tanks, weather, broken cloud, visibility good. They climbed through cumulus, formed up over English coast. Below, gray North Sea spread like hammered tin. Ahead, continent waited. German radar already tracking incoming stream. Bomber formation droned eastward at 22,000 feet. Johnson's flight held station 3,000 feet above. Sky bright and cold. Contrails stretched behind like chalk lines. Hour into enemy airspace, first attacks came. 190s diving from high sun. Johnson's element broke to engage. Gunfire stitched sky. One German fighter spun away trailing smoke. Another broke off, dove for deck. Johnson did not follow. His job: protect bombers, reset position, scanned horizon. Number 3 called second wave. 109s climbing from below. Johnson recognized tactic. Multi-axis attack. Pin escorts high while second group hit bombers low. Standard Luftwaffe doctrine since late 1943. His flight engaged climbing. One went down, two more broke away. Then problem. Engine temperature gauge climbed into red, coolant leak, glycol streaming from radiator, temperature 110 C and rising. He throttled back, reduced power to prevent seizure. Speed dropped from 380 to 310. Falling behind formation. Checked fuel. Drop tanks empty, jettisoned earlier. Internal fuel, 140 gallons remaining. Maybe 45 minutes at cruise power, less at combat power. Radioed flight lead. Engine trouble, returning to base. Flight lead acknowledged, wished him luck. Johnson turned west, alone now. That's when he saw them. 7 109s, 3,000 feet above, 2 miles north, tight formation. They'd seen him too. Banking toward intercept. Standard doctrine, dive for deck. Use P-51 speed advantage, outrun pursuers. But Johnson's engine was damaged. Full power might seize it completely, and diving burned fuel faster. Math didn't work. If he ran, they'd catch him. If he fought, fuel wouldn't last. He watched them approach, counted seconds, measured closure rate. 180 closure, distance 2 miles. Time to contact 40 seconds. His mind processed geometry. 7 fighters in formation, leader slightly ahead. 2 ship elements stepped up behind. Classic formation. He'd seen this pattern 50 times, knew how they'd attack. Leader would commit first. Diving attack from 11 o'clock high, force defender into turn. Once defender committed, elements would bracket from sides. Standard predictable. Lethal if you reacted predictably. Johnson had spent 18 months studying German decision patterns. Learned something crucial. Luftwaffe pilots followed doctrine rigidly. Leader committed, formation followed. Kill leader at moment of commitment, formation lost cohesion. Problem: getting leader to commit while conserving fuel and managing damaged engine. Solution: appear more vulnerable than he was. Make them believe easy kill. Let them commit fully. Then strike leader before formation could react. Required perfect timing, perfect calculation, zero margin for error. The Germans closed, 1 mile now. 30 seconds. Johnson did nothing, held altitude, held course, flew straight and level. Every instinct screamed, maneuver, turn, dive, do something. He waited. Germans approached, 4,000 feet, 3,000 feet, 2,000 feet. Lead 109 nose down 5 degrees. Attack run beginning. Others started committing. 2 broke right, 2 broke left. Gaggle spreading into attack geometry. Leader committed deepest. Full attack dive now, closing fast. Johnson counted seconds, 3, 4, 5. At 6 seconds he moved. Rolled inverted, pulled hard, not toward closest enemy, toward leader. Mustang dropped like Falcon. Airspeed climbed, 400 knots, 420 knots. German leader saw him coming. Broke hard left. Too late. Johnson hadn't been reacting. He'd been anticipating. Predicted exact moment, exact angle. Fired 2-second burst. .50 caliber rounds walked across 109's fuselage. Pieces flew. Canopy shattered. Fighter snapped into spin, fell away. Johnson didn't watch. Already reversing. 2 Germans who'd broken right were climbing back, trying to re-engage. But Johnson had calculated their fuel state too. They'd flown out to intercept, maneuvered, wouldn't chase diving target all way to deck. He proved it by diving another 1,000 feet. 2 hesitated, leveled off. Chose survival over revenge. Above, his earlier position now occupied by 4 confused German pilots. Leader gone. No instructions, no coordination. One tried attacking the bomber stream alone. Bad decision. American gunners converged fire. 109 pulled away smoking. Another attempted climbing attack on Johnson from below. Johnson didn't have angle for shot. Didn't need one. German pilots saw him positioning. Abandoned attack, rolled away. Math had shifted. 7 became 4, 4 became 3, and 3 remaining were no longer hunting. They were calculating own odds. Johnson climbed back toward escort altitude. Fuel gauge showed red, 10 minutes left, maybe less. One remaining German made half-hearted pass at bomber formation. Johnson turned into him. German didn't press. Pulled up and away. Other 2 already gone. Johnson reformed on bomber stream. Crippled B, droned westward trailing smoke but still flying. Checked fuel one last time. Not enough to reach England. Would have to land at emergency strip on coast. Crossed into friendly airspace 10 minutes later. Spotted emergency field. Entered pattern. Gear down. Flaps down. Mustang settled onto pierced steel planking with barely enough fuel to taxi clear. When he shut down engine, hands were steady, breathing normal. Climbed out, walked to operations tent, filed report. Duty officer asked, "How many you claim?" Johnson, 1 confirmed, maybe 2. Gun camera will decide. Officer, how'd you handle 7 hostiles with fuel emergency and no radio? Johnson, waited until they made mistake. Officer, what mistake? Johnson looked at him. They assumed patience was weakness. They assumed silence was fear. They were wrong. Gun camera footage would prove him right in ways even he didn't expect. Gun camera footage confirmed 2 kills. Intelligence officer studied engagement for hours. Geometry was unusual. Johnson hadn't followed standard doctrine, hadn't turned into first threat, hadn't engaged nearest target. Instead, waited. And when he moved with such precise timing that enemy formation collapsed from inside. One analyst noted Johnson appeared to have deliberately held fire until German leader fully committed to attack run. Another pointed out Johnson's dive hadn't been evasive, it had been predatory. Calculated intercept based on predictive geometry. They asked him to explain thinking. Johnson said he'd watched how Germans maneuvered during earlier missions. They followed patterns, committed as group once leader committed, kill leader at moment of commitment, formation lost cohesion. Not luck, observation, pattern recognition. Discipline to wait for right moment, even when instincts screamed to act. Within weeks, his method was being taught in briefings. Do not react, observe, let enemy commit, then strike at decision maker. WWII Fighter Command issued tactical bulletin May 1944, delayed engagement doctrine, based on Johnson's April encounter. Key principles: observe enemy formation behavior before engaging. Identify leader or decision maker, wait for commitment point, strike leader first, formation will collapse without coordination. 4th Fighter Group adopted immediately, results dramatic. June 1944 losses, 9 fighters. Previous month using aggressive doctrine, 23 fighters. 356th Fighter Group, implemented July 1944. Loss rate dropped 35% first month. By August 1944, every P-51 group in 8th Air Force using variations of Johnson's patience doctrine. Cumulative results devastating for Luftwaffe. July 1944, German fighters lost 472 aircraft over Western Europe. American fighters lost 87. August 1944, German losses 691 aircraft. American losses 104. Exchange ratio shifted from 2-1 American favor to 6-1 American favor in 3 months. What made difference? American pilots stopped reacting predictably, started waiting for German commitment, struck decision makers, German formations collapsed. By September 1944, Luftwaffe commanders noted problem in intelligence reports. American fighter tactics have evolved. No longer engage aggressively, they wait, they observe, they strike when we commit. Our formation tactics no longer effective. Too late to develop counter-tactics. American numerical superiority already overwhelming. New doctrine just accelerated inevitable. Johnson's kill tally climbed. By tour end, 27 confirmed aerial victories. One of top American aces, European theater. But numbers never mattered to him way they mattered to others. What mattered? Fewer bombers lost. Fewer crews died because someone learned to think instead of react. Post-war analysis revealed Johnson's innovation changed fighter doctrine permanently. His average ammunition expenditure per kill, half that of other aces. Fuel management, textbook. Loss rate among pilots flying in his formations, measurably lower than average. He hadn't flown harder, he'd flown smarter. Modern air combat still uses principle Johnson mastered. F-22 pilots train in delayed engagement scenarios. Wait for adversary to commit. Identify decision node. Strike before formation can react. Technology changed. Jets replaced propellers. Missiles replaced bullets. Radar replaced eyesight. Principle remained. Patience is weapon. Timing is everything. Ability to let enemy believe they have advantage until moment you prove otherwise is mark of master. Legacy wasn't enemies shot down, was men he brought home. Because best pilots weren't ones who flew fastest or fired most. They were ones who understood survival was calculation. Every second of patience was second someone else got to live. Johnson knew that, proved it 7 times over in single fight that should have killed him. The quiet pilot who waited, who calculated, who turned silence into trap. And when enemy finally struck, found trap had been theirs all along.